Why should I care about fighting the stigma of mental health?
Because we're all people living on this earth and nobody deserves to be discriminated against. And at the end of the day, that's what stigma does to people.
I got that dish. Got that. I got that dish. 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 I got that dish. I got that. I got that dish. That dish.
Hey y'all, it's Onika.
And JR.
And you are dishing with Dainty Dish. How you doing, JR?
I am doing well. Doing swell.
Swell?
Yep.
What's happening in the world of JR? I'm curious.
You're curious.
You know, I'm nosy. I'm very nosy. I like to know what's going on with you.
I don't know what's going on. I've got dodgeball stuff still going on. You know, got some improv stuff. But, I'm just living my life, doing some yoga, working my behind off,
That's good.
All work, no play, living that type of life right now. What's going on with you?
Had mental health day today. Saw my therapist. It was an interesting conversation. Things have been shifting and changing in my personal life, and we discussed that today, so that was good. Also, this week, I worked on that collaborative workbook for mental health once again. They called us in for another focus group, and I got to see Augustina. Hey, girl, hey. And it was good. We got a lot done. It was very productive.
Neat. So what's going on in your quest to becoming a peer support worker?
Doing a course right now called Thoughts and Emotions. It's really interesting because it's kind of like one of those cognitive behavioral therapy things where your thoughts lead to your emotions, lead to certain behaviors. So we're kind of covering, how all that works in regards to people's mental health and and the choices that they make and things of that nature. Also preparing to register for next month's courses, which will include Peer Support Training 1, which I'm really excited about. It will also include CPR training. So I'm going to be getting certified in that and a couple other courses that are going to be really very interesting.
Oh, cool. So you seem to be pretty productive.
I seem to be up to some stuff.
Yeah, you got some stuff up.
Up to some stuff. I'm usually not up to stuff, but now I'm up to some stuff. Work's been
wow.
That's the noise I'm going to make for work. It's
okay.
Like it's been not getting a lot of shifts, but it's January. That's just the life of retail. So thinking about looking for something a little bit different, probably something in the peer support worker realm. I was told I could apply even though I don't have the exact certification set because, sometimes they will pay for that for you. So I'm looking into it, seeing what I can work out.
Okay, that's cute.
But that question you asked me at the top of the show about stigma.
Yeah, it's because you came in today. It's stigma this, stigma that. And I was like, I thought you were talking about Jesus and stuff, so...
No, that's stigmata.
Yeah, I know.
That's stigmata. I was talking about stigmas and stereotypes.
Yeah, I know.
And discrimination. You figured that out eventually?
Figured that out, yeah.
Stigmata. I'm sorry. That was pure gold. I try.
I try.
And the thing is, you don't even try that hard. He's actually a pretty funny guy. Like, he really is.
Anyway,
really is. But anyways, stigma. Back to stigma. No, I wanted to talk about stigma in mental health because the topic has recently come up in my life. I was at work the other day. I'll tell you a little story. I was at work the other day and I accidentally bumped into a woman. And she proceeded to...
Is this going to be drama-filled?
It was a drama-filled moment. She proceeded to scream at me and tell me I was gross, I was disgusting. I could tell this woman had some type of mental health issue.
Maybe you are just gross.
Maybe I am just gross. My boob grazed her. I walk with my boobs first. So it grazed her shoulder. She went off. She went off at my managers, other associates. She had to be escorted out of the building, out of the store, sorry. And this often happens because we're actually near a hospital with a psychiatric ward. The mall is. So people who escape might come into our store and try to steal or whatever. And I notice the way I reacted to this woman and her tirade was far different from the way my associates and my colleagues and my boss around me were reacting to her, and other people around her were reacting to her. You know, they clearly could see that there was something not right with her, and instead of, you know, they showed fear. They showed a deep-seated fear. She was a little woman, tiny woman. You know, nothing too big, not a huge burly woman or anything, but the fear in their eyes was so, and the fear in the air was so palpable. And I was like the calm in the storm. I said to her, "Ma'am, I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to bump into you." And she continued to rail, and I was okay with that. My boss sent me to the back room thinking I was going to be emotional over this situation, but I understood something that I think a lot of people don't understand. When people have mental health conditions and they're ostracized and they're singled out, and you know, they are seen in this way as you know, violent, unpredictable people, you know, it kind of perpetuates the stigma around mental health. Like when they're seen as people who are going to yell and scream and rail, it seems to perpetuate it a little bit, because not all people with mental health issues behave that way.
I don't know. I'm a black guy. I mean, I deal with all sorts of stuff on a daily basis. So if I'm coming to you and you're telling me about the stigma for mental health, and I'm saying, so what? Why should I care?
But you shouldn't say so what, because as a black man, you of all people, and me as a black woman, me of all people, because I've got the dual. I've got the black woman and I've got the mental health.
Well, okay. Well, I don't. Let's just be clear. I don't see being a black person. There's a stigma. Like I don't have. There's no disgrace associated. I don't feel disgrace associated with that.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Conversation.
For sure. Yeah. No, but us being black people, let's say I didn't have a mental health condition. Just as a black woman, I would feel like these people are being treated as others. They're not being treated as equals. They're being treated as less than because of something they can't help or change, just like you and I with the color of our skin. We can't change that we're black people. We can't change.
I'm changing a little bit right now.
Stop it, JR. Stop it. Like, we can't change that we're black people. We can't change the color of our skin. And just like people with mental health, they can't change who, you know, what they're going through in their experiences. And they shouldn't be discriminated against because of it. You know, they shouldn't be ostracized because of it. They shouldn't be feared because of it.
But it is scary. Like, the reality is, it is scary. I mean, I spoke about it in one of our earlier episodes. My first experience of visiting you in the mental, in the ward. That was like by far in my life. That is probably top 3 scariest things that have ever happened to me. No, and I'm not like I'm not making a joke.
No,
about it.
I know you're not.
I'm just saying. So like that's scary, and you know sometimes when you're out and about and you're not expecting a certain reaction from somebody, or someone to act a certain way, and they do, you might be scared.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
That was how many years ago was that experience you had?
Well,
you were how old?
At least like 12 years ago.
At least 12, yeah. Like 10 years ago.
No, way more than 10 years ago. It was more than 10.
With me?
Yeah, it was like at least 12 years.
Maybe.
Yeah,
10, 12 years ago.
Yeah, like 10, 12 years ago.
Okay. Look at yourself then and the level of, and I'm going to use the word ignorance because I'm not saying you're stupid. I'm just saying you didn't know that
I know what ignorant means.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry for being ignorant and treating you ignorantly. No, but knowing your ignorance then to what you know now after doing a podcast for a year, being around me in multiple episodes, you know, do you think you'd have the same level of fear going into a situation with me now? Let's say, God forbid, I was to have another manic episode and I had to be hospitalized. I would like to hope that you would come and see me. I would hope.
You can hope.
You're terrible.
No, I mean,
you're the worst.
No, it's not, and I'm not being a jerk about this. I mean, it's just I don't like that place.
I don't like it.
Like I'm just like
don't
that.
Like it.
And I'm not. No, this is not me trying to be funny. You know, like we've talked about this. Like it's a quick conversation right now, but we've talked about this in great depth. Where I've said this is how I feel about this, and this is where I am. This is where I am. This is where I stay, and these are the things that I will offer, and I'm here. I just can't do that.
You can't go there.
That, and we've talked about that. So like, but that's just me. But it is scary if you've never seen someone. Let's say, for example, someone's in psychosis. You know, in a manic state. You've never seen that. I mean, to some it might be funny. To some it might be disgusting. To some it might be scary, you know, and to some it might be there might be empathy, and for some it just might be I'm here to help, right? Like there's all types of different reactions.
Some people might take action.
I mean, how do you think we as a people can effectively get to a point where we truly are not affectionate, but empathetic to each other? Because I mean, I truly feel that we are like one, you know, disaster away from us being complete. Could be complete anarchy. You know, like
I think what it takes is. I think it's education. Like educating yourself about like don't be ignorant about what's going on in the world. Like educate yourself if you really give a shit about mental health, or you know someone who has a mental health issue, or you yourself have a mental health issue. Educating yourself and talking about it. Definitely talking about it is key.
Okay, I like the fact that you said talking about it, because I'm like, it's not really. It wouldn't be about the people that are aware of it and know people and have family members. It would be the other people. Mm-hmm. Would it not be? Yeah,
and having conversations like the one we're having right now, talking about it is key. But it is also educating yourself so that you don't have to deal with things like self-stigma, right? That's where you're feeling guilt or shame over your mental health, or you're not seeking help for yourself because you're so afraid of what other people think and feel, and, you know, how other people are going to perceive you, that you don't help yourself.
Hey man, Tony Soprano, he had a therapist.
Everybody needs a little bit of therapy, honestly. Like, I think everybody could use a good therapy session, like, once a month at least. At least.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think those are the two key things. And, you know, being able to ask for help when you need it. Like, my experience with stigma, it's been from kind of a start to finish until I kind of had to make a decision to just not ignore it. I don't want to say ignore it, but, and it's not even fighting against it, but kind of like sticking my middle finger up to it. Like just being like, you know what? Fuck you, stigma. Like, I'm not going to deal with you. You know, it's just because you experience it. And a great example for me, when I go to the hospital, I'm manic. I'm done. Like they put me in a room. There's cops. the triage process is very swift when it comes to someone like me. Mm-hmm. But if you take someone who is going through a depression or an anxiety, for instance, and you look at the triage process for them, So I'm going to give the example of our cousin's friend. When I took her to the hospital, give me a second. When I took her to the hospital, the nurse actually looked at her like, there's nothing wrong with you. I think you're faking it. She asked her, she goes, your heart rate is very high. What did you take? And the girl was having a panic attack. That's why her heart rate was so high. So you find there are instances where the healthcare professionals that are supposed to be taking care of you, they don't even believe that you're sick, or they don't believe your symptoms. So it starts there, and then it'll end with something like going to the hospital, being hospitalized, being on medication, and having your friends or your family members isolate themselves from you or separate themselves from you. It's a very, from the start of your mental health journey, stigma is just right over your shoulder, just waiting to stop your progress from the very, very start, in my opinion.
I don't know what to say there. I don't know. I've never experienced a healthcare professional not believe me. So that's not that. Like I really find that highly unlikely. But then, I mean, hey, things happen, right? Go ahead.
No, I mean, it's shocking how often things like that happen. Because I remember a conversation we had previously where we talked about being hospitalized for a period of time so they know whether or not you're faking it. Do you remember that conversation we had with Augustina? To make sure they know that you're genuinely ill?
I do remember that.
Yeah. So that's that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make with that when it comes to healthcare professionals. They, being in an emergency room, you see homeless people come in and say they need a bed because they're experiencing heart palpitations.
Yeah, so they have to do their due diligence.
They have to do their due diligence.
Okay, so I guess I understand then from the healthcare professional's perspective. I think you're faking it. If you're like going through a mental challenge in the moment, I don't think you're going to be coherent enough to even respond to that. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I think maybe that's what they're looking for. You know, like, I don't know. I have no idea. Like, there's got to be a reason. These people are professionally trained. Like, I don't doubt their skills and their abilities. If they're asking you something, they're doing it for a reason. Some
of these people are just straight up jaded. They've seen too much. They know too much, and they're skeptical. They're straight up skeptical.
And I mean, that's not a bad thing.
It can be if you need help and you're not getting the help you need because you're being turned away.
But they ultimately gave your friend the help that they needed.
Actually,
let's not argue
okay,
here nor there.
Cool.
The fact is, a doctor did see them. They did make some recommendations, and they did put them on a path within the mental health journey. So it was at the end of the day, a successful interaction.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, I don't want to sit here and bash, anyone, and simply because of one experience. I don't want to bash them for one experience. I don't think that's right.
Okay, let's move on to employment.
Okay.
Then.
Okay.
When your employer discriminates against you because you have a history of mental health or mental illness.
So I see a perspective on this that you might not like. And
share it with me, please.
And that is that when you run a business, the whole purpose of running a business is so you're not there. And you hire people to do a job at a certain time, between a certain time, for a certain period of time, and the purpose of that, them having that job, is for them to do that job, irregardless of their personal matters, their whatever's going on in their life. You're being paid to do something. If you can't do that within the parameters that were set, I understand employers not wanting to have somebody there. I get it. Now, a history, when you say history, is someone's going into your records to find out things that happened in the past. I think that's just out of the question. Mm-hmm. But if you are not unable to do whatever particular job you were hired for, so if you were hired to be somewhere 40 hours a week and you can only be there 30, well, you're not doing what you were hired for.
I understand what you're saying.
Yes, and I have a perspective that you're probably not going to like.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. It's not that I dislike it. I even slightly agree with it. But as a person who's experienced being discriminated against by an employer, and not even an employer, that's a lie. It was a potential employer. I disclosed in an interview. The question that was posed to me was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, I have mental health challenges, and I would like to become an advocate for mental health. Now, the look on this gentleman's face.
Absolutely.
When I said I have mental health challenges, the interview was going very well. Like, the interview was going, there was laughing, there was joke, it was all good and well.
Okay.
But the minute I disclosed that I had a mental health, the whole vibe in the room changed. He rushed me out of there. He wanted me out of there. Like, it was.
You don't expect. Okay, so a job interview is like a date, where on a first date where you're trying to figure out, is this person right for me? Am I right for this person? And it's both people talking to each other. Now, would you disclose after the first date that you have would you disclose you have a mental health issue on your first date?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
I don't date a lot. I mean, granted.
Okay. I mean,
I don't date a lot. But I lead with it.
I look at it that there's a lot of things that you don't disclose there's a lot of things that I wouldn't disclose about myself in interviews. They might not. They're not. There's nothing bad. But there's things I'm not going to disclose. And other than things that you can physically see about me, nothing except for what's worth is getting the job is going to be something I'm going to disclose to you.
Here's the reason why I disclosed it, and
Okay.
I also disclosed it in the job that I have now, and I got that job.
Okay.
Right, so there was the difference. Every situation makes a difference. Mm-hmm. But the reason I disclosed it is because the job that I had previously, my past 1 year situation that I was in, I hid it. Because of the stigma, because I was so worried about what people would think about me in that industry, because it was events, the event management industry. I was so concerned with how I looked and what people would think that I made myself sick by hiding the fact that I needed to go and see my nurse once a month in the Durham region, the fact that I need to see my psychiatrist to regulate my medication, all of these things that I needed, that never necessarily got in the way of the job, because for an entire year I was able to hold up the farce, of going back to the Durham region to see my doctor once a month. So I take a day, a work from home day or whatever. And I had permission to do that. But if my boss, and I honestly believe this, if my boss knew what I was taking that one day to actually do, I would never have gotten that job. I only disclosed to him after that I was bipolar, after he fired me. And then he said, I knew something was wrong with you. That was his response to me. I knew something was not right with you.
Okay, now I don't know. I don't know. Because your bipolar disorder was affecting your job, so you weren't doing the job that you were hired to do.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is the fact that let's look at the job that I have now.
Okay.
Tuesday is my mental health day.
Okay.
I made it clear to my managers that Tuesday I cannot be booked on Tuesdays because that is my mental health day.
Okay.
I didn't necessarily have to tell them what I do on Tuesdays, but I wanted them to know that this specific day in my week is dedicated to my mental health, and these are the reasons why.
Okay. So you were at a job before that could not accommodate the time off that you needed to take care of your mental health without you having to tell a lie. Mm-hmm. You then found a job that accommodates your mental health and allows you to tell the truth. Where's the problem lie?
Is that a rhetorical question or is that a question you're asking me?
It can go both ways.
I just feel like
You didn't put your mental health first.
no, I didn't in that moment I didn't put my mental health first. That goes back to what I was talking about with self-stigma. I didn't think my mental health was more important than making that money, getting that job, doing the career thing, moving forward in life.
I don't know. It's just you got to put your mental health first.
But at the same time, when employers make it challenging for you to put your mental health first, sometimes putting your mental health first means you don't what? That you don't work?
No,
that you don't have a job?
No, it means finding a job. Here's the thing: no one said work is supposed to be fun.
Nope.
You do work to survive. So if you want to have specific days off and you need to find a job that allow you to sustain whatever day off you want to have off. Mm-hmm. You make a choice on what you do. Nobody else. You have control over everything you do. So for you, finding the job that you're in today allows you to live. It allows you to go to school. It allows you to put your mental health first. It allows you to sustain a living. You found a job that works for your mental health. So before you weren't putting your mental health first. So yeah, I guess the whole self-stigma thing. I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know if that's what I would call it. But if you want to call it that, it's your show.
Self-perceived or self-stigma. Yeah, it's when you internalize the stigma where you think. Not necessarily that your mental health is not important, but maybe like for me, I thought I could do it all. Mm-hmm. I thought I could have it all. But going into it, knowing that I had to lie about it, should have been my first indication that it wasn't the right situation for me. Like the fact that I was so terrified of them finding out about what was going on with me in reality, it just... That's why I will tell an employer, and now I have a podcast, so everybody knows. But I will tell an employer right away that because I know I'm going to need to take time off for things.
It's not a matter of you needing to tell your employer. I don't know. That's the thing that that's the thing, the challenge I have. I disclose. But that's the challenge that I have. It's like a lot of times I feel like your employer doesn't need to know that. They shouldn't. I mean, it's the harsh reality. But your employer shouldn't have to care about an employer. As long as your paycheck is on time, that's all they owe you. Everything else is a bonus. And I don't know. I have a hard time. Yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time.
But
placing the onus on an employer.
But when an employer isn't hiring you because you have a mental health issue
that you chose to disclose.
That's not right, though.
But if I have diabetes, I don't have to disclose I have diabetes. If I have, I don't know.
Yeah, but if you had cancer, you'd probably have to disclose you have cancer because what if you have to go to chemotherapy?
Well, but you'd be disclosing that after the fact, and you'd say, hey, I have a medical condition. that I'm seeking attention for, and it's taking me out of the office, blah, 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 blah. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to give them a reason. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like, I don't feel this way, but is this just like a cry for attention?
No, for me, it's just I feel it's important to be honest, because I know there are things over the course of, like, perfect example, like when I was feeling low in September, October, and I had to honestly go to my workplace and say, listen, this is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on with me. That doesn't make me any less than the other people that I work with. It doesn't make me any... I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm just saying that I had proven myself as a good employee for months before my issue came up. Now I have an issue, but I think the fair thing to do and the right thing to do is to let them know, even before they hire me, that these things may come up in the course of my time in your employment. And I don't want to, when they come up, have to be dishonest about it or lie about it or, you know what I mean, not take care of myself for the sake of your organization. Like,
but now you're
I have to put my health first.
Absolutely, but now you're putting me in a compromising position as, like, let's say I'm an employer, because now you're a candidate that's telling me, okay, I'm good right now, but there's maybe a situation in the near future where I'm going to have to miss days of productivity. Versus here's another candidate that may have the same challenges but didn't disclose, so the perception of this candidate is they're the best candidate because they are not going to be away from the job. I don't know. It's one of those situations I'm like, I don't understand. It's like chicken and an egg thing.
Chicken and an egg.
Yeah,
which
I don't know.
came
Like,
first? You don't know.
because, like, I personally feel you shouldn't disclose anything. Like, I'm not trying to tell my employer anything about me. What you see about me is what you get. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing. You don't need to know my medical history. You don't need to know anything about me unless it's pertinent into the job. So if you need to do a background check, credit check, criminal check, fine, no problem. But, you know, if anything else, it's like, you don't need my DNA. You know, like, what's going on here?
I don't know. I feel like it's like if a person has like a bad back or and they're trying to lift heavy boxes, they want to get a job lifting heavy boxes, and their employer doesn't know they have a bad back. Like, their employer probably should know before they hire them that they have a bad back. Like, and they can't be lifting boxes. Like,
but if you have a bad back and you shouldn't be lifting boxes, and you choose to go lift boxes, well, you get what you deserve.
So for me, I feel like if I'm bipolar and it's a part of who I am, it's a part of my makeup, it's a part of, you know, what's going on in my life, and it might affect your workplace, you need to know about it. It doesn't make me any less of an employee or less of a worker, not as good at my job as other people.
But you're making yourself the less likable candidate. Like, can you just, like, look at it from an X's and O perspective?
Yeah. No,
like,
I can see that. I can see that.
You know, like that. Like, that's what it comes down to. I think most of the time, like, when you're looking for someone to do something, you're looking for who is the best candidate. And if someone says that I'm only going to be available, I'm only available 90% of the time, versus someone that says I'm available 100% of the time. Like, I mean, it doesn't matter about your mental health at that point. It's about the X's and O's. This person's going to be more productive. Mm-hmm. And it's a job. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think stigma in the workplace that's a sticky one. I don't know. I think that's
challenging.
That's really challenging.
What about when renting?
When what?
Renting.
What do you mean?
Landlords. I've any kind of stigma that you can think of, I've experienced, basically.
Oh, landlord, like me. Oh, I've tried to rent places in the past. Gone it. Oh, when I was with my ex-wife, I went in by myself. Went in, spoke to the woman. She told me there was nothing available. Mm-hmm. My ex-wife went in, like, shortly after, and then I followed. Like, as she was telling her everything was okay. She's like, "I'm waiting for my fiance." Blah blah blah. And then I showed up, and it was me again. And it was too late. She had already told her there was one available. Like, I've had that happen. I've gone to places where, they've jacked the price up right when I get there. I mean, like, all sorts of stuff, like all sorts of interesting things, so, like, whatever.
And that's a clearly a race issue.
But I mean, like,
But
whatever, you know. Yeah.
It's not whatever for people with mental health issues, because
Well, if you
at
don't,
the end
here's
of
the
the
thing.
day,
If you don't want me here, for me, it looks like, I look at it like, if you're that kind of person,
I don't want to be with you.
what kind of place do you have?
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
Like, you look where I'm staying right now. Clearly, the person I'm renting from is not a slouch. You know, is not a bad person, right? Like, it's clear because they take care of their stuff, and in return, I take care of it here, right? You know, so I mean, do I want to support someone that's a slouch? No, thank you. Do I want to support those types of people? No. So I'd rather, you want to point yourself out to me? Great. I now recognize you, and I'm not going to support you.
I don't know. I feel with the whole landlord thing, I've had both experiences, and here's how it usually goes. You don't tell them you have a mental health condition. It's not that you tell them.
Oh, okay.
It's that they see your ODSP slip, your Ontario Disability Support Program slip.
Well, okay, I understand why people don't rent to that.
But ODSP is guaranteed money.
But still, you're looking at a lot of the people that have. I mean, this is just a stereotype, but are seen to be people that aren't as responsible.
Exactly, that's a stereotype. That's stigma, right? You just said it right there. Like, the last place I lived in when I was in Ajax, hey, shout out to Michael. So my landlord, I was literally like a couple of days away from being homeless once again, and I showed him my disability slip, and I made some lie up. I said some bullshit lie about what career I was doing or whatever, but my money was coming from disability, and he was smart enough to recognize that this is guaranteed money, but he took a risk on me.
Okay,
as a person with just a disability, because clearly I don't have a physical disability to look at me. I have a mental disability. So he took a risk on me. Fast forward 3 years when I left the place, right? He decided this is guaranteed money. It's not like welfare. It's guaranteed money. So let me take on some more disability cases, right? So he takes them on. And the one girl ended up like, there was fights, there was mess, there was
so
smoking weed.
You're not
Hold on
making
a
the case.
second. Hold on. There was smoking weed in his house. There was this, that, and the other. You know, they lazed about. They didn't do anything. They didn't have jobs. I told him, I said, Michael, not everybody's going to be an Onika Dainty. And that's facts. Like, I understand that. But at the same time, everyone should at least be given a chance. If you have the money, if you have the references, you should at least be given a chance.
That's not the way it works in the real world. If a property owner has the right to rent their property to whomever they choose, and you just gave prime reasons why someone. Here's the thing: if I'm a condominium owner and I have a wife, 2 kids, 2.5 dogs, or whatever that old saying is, and I got a house, and I buy a condo as my retirement fund, essentially. Am I going to take the risk of putting someone who has a higher risk of messing up my investment and my retirement in there, or am I going to go try and find the highest caliber person that's going to go in there and just respect my stuff and come and go when the lease is up? Like,
but how could you make that judgment call based on an ODSP slip?
But you just said that there was a bunch of people that were on ODSP slips that messed up the property. People people always share bad experiences. People don't share good ones. So yeah, you might be one good ODSP situation, but then someone has one other bad one, and that's been tainted now. They're never going to do it again, right? So I'm just like, hey, I don't make the rules, right? Like, I'm just saying, this happens.
It happens, and I just don't feel like
I understand it's not fair.
It's not fair.
And you have to look for it. Like, as a black man in Toronto, you know how hard I had to look to find a place in here. Like you saw my struggle finding places, having the money in hand, having the credit, everything in hand, ready to go, and going through realtors. It happens.
I just think that a lot of people's opinions, though, like, they're based on certain assumptions. Like, one can assume that all schizophrenics are violent.
Well,
right?
It's the same reason why. Okay, the same reason why I think black people are also I guess, seen a certain way is because of the media of the movies. Every person that thinks of schizophrenia can reference a character in a movie that they saw, and that is their idea of schizophrenia. My idea of crazy has always been what I saw in the movies. And then, you know what? Then going into a institution, although it wasn't like the movie, I could see how they
came to that conclusion.
I could see exactly how you created that conclusion in the movie. I could see exactly how you got there, right? So, I mean, hey,
I've seen a lot of movies with like depictions of people with mental health issues. One of the best ones I think I've seen recently is Silver Lining Playbook. I like that one. The guy in it's bipolar, and he does the things that I would do. Right, so I could see myself in the character.
Okay, so that's one accurate depiction?
That's like one accurate depiction. Girl Interrupted was pretty accurate as well.
I've seen none of these movies.
Oh, they're really good. There's some mental, like, beautiful. Have you seen A Beautiful Mind?
Nope.
He has schizophrenia. That one's pretty accurate.
I don't watch movies.
Well, A Beautiful Mind. The beauty about A Beautiful Mind, though, is he was a mathematician, and he heard voices and saw people everywhere he went, right? But it showed how mental health destroyed his career to a certain extent, his family life, his relationships, because he was seeing these people. But at the end of it, the realistic part was there's no cure for schizophrenia, right? So he had to learn to navigate through life with these multiple different characters in his head. And that's what schizophrenia essentially is.
Okay.
You know, but then you think about things like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Have you ever seen that one?
Nope.
I've seen the movie and I've read the book, and I actually call there's a woman in there, the Nurse Ratched.
Yeah.
Like, her name is Nurse Ratched.
Yeah.
And so anytime I have a bad nurse when I'm in the hospital, I'm like, there goes Nurse Ratched. Like, because she used to like abuse the patients. And it was more of a blown up version of like what psychiatric hospitals were like in the 60s. And Jack Nicholson's story's in it, and he basically plays a character that's like an anarchist, like he's against the man, and that's why they put him in that facility. It's not that he's actually crazy, but they have people with Tourette's, they have people with like mutes. They had everything in the 60s was a mental health condition issue. If you were different, you were locked away.
Okay.
You know, so it's that kind of sense of being the other, you know, and also, you know, in the news, the way people with mental health issues are portrayed in the news. We're starting to hear more positive stories, not about people, but about initiatives for mental health. But what about the positive stories about people? Like, so we don't hear those.
Isn't that the problem then? Like, I mean, it's
media.
It's comes down to what we're seeing out there.
Yeah, it's because it's instilling fear and misunderstanding. That's what it's instilling in people. Fear of the other, fear of the unknown, and misunderstanding.
Okay.
You know, I remember this was a couple of years ago, actually. I can't remember when, but I had a Toronto Life magazine, and they featured this. Do you remember that girl that stabbed the woman in the Shoppers Drug Mart in the tunnels by Union?
Sure.
Anyway, so this Indian girl stabbed this other girl, just like she was schizophrenic. And a voice in her head told her to go stab somebody, and she stabbed this girl, right? And she ended up in a, you know, federal psychiatric facility, whatever. And all her parents could say was, she was a good girl. You know, she's misunderstood. It was the voices in her head. But that story was, during the time it had happened, it was sensationalized. It was complete. It was all over the Star, the Globe. It was in Toronto Life. They did the big update like a couple months later to see, like, you know, what was going on with her. You know, they sensationalized the violence that isn't necessarily a part of all people with mental health illnesses. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's not right. The way that media portrays people.
Well, I guess that's why we have like community organizations like Starts With Me.
Of course. Hey, Mike.
Yeah. You know, so like, you know, we're like, cause I like what he's doing. He's gone to like some of the schools, like when I was in high school that I'd play basketball, like in track and field, like, so I recognize some of the names. It's pretty cool. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we got like that's kind of, I guess, where you
gotta
starts.
talk. You gotta start the talking and sharing and opening up about how you feel, even if your opinion's not popular. Like, you've given some unpopular opinions on this show today. You've given some risque opinions.
I hate when everyone says everything's risque and controversial. Look, I'm just talking. Like,
you're just saying what you feel.
I'm not saying what I feel. I'm just talking for the sake of, like, we're having a conversation, and based on what we're talking about, I like these. These are ideas that are popping up in my head about what's going on.
And people think those things.
Absolutely.
People genuinely think those things, and it's okay.
Some of these things I don't genuinely think. Some of them
I'm not saying you do. I know you like to play devil's advocate. So, but people who genuinely believe certain things about people with mental health conditions, take a second look. Like, have you ever talked to someone with a mental health condition? That's number one. Maybe have a conversation with someone who has schizophrenia or who has depression or anxiety or bipolar. There was one that I read that I actually kind of agree with, though, and this is a stereotype that I kind of agree with. Bipolar people are hard to manage. I'm like, if we're gonna look at, like, me, yeah, that statement makes sense. But not all bipolar people are hard to manage.
I don't know. I've only met like 3 or 4.
3 or 4?
You don't know who I know.
You're like, you don't know who I know?
Like, just relax yourself.
Yeah, no, it's just, or that the fact that people with anxiety are weak-willed. Like, people have, like, these, like, generalizations that they come up with to put people with mental health conditions in a certain box or in a category to suit their needs. They don't stop to question, what is this person actually going through? What does this illness actually mean? What's the effect it has on the person's family, on their work life, on their personal life, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I don't know. I just went off on a tangent there.
Yep.
So some things that we can do, just to reiterate, to stop the stigma, educating ourselves is very important. Talking about it is very important. Another one that we didn't go over was when you hear someone saying something like, oh my gosh, she's so bipolar. Would you interject in a conversation if someone says something like, use the mental health terminology to describe themselves? Would you stop the conversation? Would you tell them that's not the right thing to do if they don't genuinely have that condition?
That's not one of the words that I'm going to stop somebody for.
What, bipolar?
Yeah. Like, I tend to keep to myself. Like, unless someone's dropping the N-bombs out there, I'm not really...
I'm not
really getting involved. That's just me being honest. Like, I'm trying not to be involved. But, I think I should. Like, I'm thinking about it. Like, I think it... Like, This is me. That was a quick one. You caught me off guard with that one.
Yeah. Because people, it happens a lot with young kids too. They use it all the time. You're so schizo. You're so bipolar. Oh my gosh, I feel so depressed. I have anxiety. Like, this whole thing. It's funny. It gives me anxiety.
Now isn't it?
The Kardashians say that a lot.
No, is it? Okay, let's not do that. Is it okay that they're using the word to describe a feeling? Like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really manic. I'm really excited right now. I'm really low right now. They are kind of using the word in the right context.
No, you can't. No, you can't say I'm really manic right now.
No,
you can't do that. Yeah, like, if someone was to look at me and say I'm really manic right now, I'd probably want to like punch them in the throat. Like, and if they didn't know bipolar and what mania actually is like.
If they were like making a reference, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm like really manic right now.
No, unacceptable.
Okay.
Pineapples.
What?
Pineapples.
I don't even know what that means.
Like, no, that's a no-go zone. Anyways, yeah, but stopping people from saying things that I know, it's time to wrap up the show. Anyways, this has been a really great conversation about stigma. If you guys have anything to add, if you've ever experienced stigma in your own life, and you want to share it with us, please do reach out to us. JR, tell them how they can reach us.
Definitely. You can reach us at Dish, DYSH, at daintydish.com. That's DAINTY, You can check out more of Onika's writing at onikadanty.com and more of her opinions. Because opinions, yeah. You can also check out the website, daintydish.com. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts,
Give us a 5, you deserve a 5.
we truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you're listening to us on YouTube, SoundCloud, any other platform, we truly appreciate you. Google Play, thank you so much. That's it for me.
Like I said, that has been the dish of the day. Thank you so much, Jared, for having the conversation with me. And y'all have yourselves a very, very, very happy hump day.